So after recently acquiring a neural DSP Quad Cortex, I've had a lot of questions of folks asking me how I approach the neural capture process. It's actually a fairly simple process, but I thought I would do a quick, concise video on just how I approach it, show you the results, and then show you how I will use those neural captures inside of a preset to have something that is gig and studio ready, and how I would lay those neural captures out within a preset to kind of get multiple channels, shall we say, out of an amp that maybe isn't a multiple channel amp. That's one way we can look at it. And later in this video, I will show you a demo video for my full-blown RectZ Ultimate Neural Capture and Preset Pack that I have available at my website below. The links are below to any of the tones you're going to hear and to my website where I have my neural captures available. I'm also up on Cortex Cloud under the username jsadites. That's JSADITES. If you want to give me a follow there and grab the free stuff that I have up there also. So without further ado, let's dive right in and take a look at this neural capture process and see what the results turn out to be. All right, so here we are over in Cortex Control software. Now, to get started with this, I've already set things up to be ready to go because I don't want you to have to go through watching me do all the cabling and setup. That needs to be done for a neural capture, although I will take you through what does have to be done. So to start off, we can either do this on the touchscreen. It's over here off camera. Thought it would be easier to show you how to do this on Cortex Control, but there is a menu just on the screen we can touch and find this same possibility. So you'll see here, it's slightly off screen here, but it says new neural capture. And when I click that, it takes me to a whole new page on Cortex Control. And it takes me step by step through this process, making sure that we're hooked up and have everything set up right. So first of all, it gives us basically this graphic of the back panel of the Quad Cortex. And it says, plug your instrument into input 1. That's kind of obvious. So that's what I've done. I have my guitar plugged into instrument 1. For best results, it says, please disconnect any devices from send 1, send 2, return 1, and return 2. And I have that also. Nothing is plugged in, as you can see. So it shows you in green where our instrument will go, input 1. Once we've done that, we hit next. We move on now. It says connect your headphones and or use out 1, 2 or out 3, 4 for monitoring. So basically what I have here is that I'm not going to use headphones here, but I'm going to use out 1 and out 2 to feed my studio monitors. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm actually going into a separate audio interface so I can capture it all for this particular video. If you don't have the ability to hook them up to some speakers, we can just plug headphones in and use those. Now, we could also alternatively use the out 3, 4 for our monitoring as well. Now, this isn't really doing anything other than guiding us through the proper setup, making sure that we're set up properly. So I hit next. Now it tells me connect capture out to the input of your target device. So basically, the capture out output on Quad Cortex is feeding the front of my amp because that's what's going to send the test signals out of Quad Cortex to my amp so that it can capture what is coming out of my amp and cab, whether it be a DI capture, an amp and cab capture, or just a stomp box. There's many different captures we can make. All right, so that's set up. We're ready to go. Next, it says, position your mic in front of the cabinet. I've done that. I am miking up my Dr. Z Z-Rec Junior amplifier, going through an incredible 212 rev amplification, G12H75 creamback loaded cabinet. One of my favorite combinations. Beautiful tones out of this combination. And I'm miking that up with a Royer R10 ribbon mic, positioned exactly where I want. Now, this is something that's very important to bring up here. The positioning of the mic we choose, the settings we have on the amp, these are all things that are going to be captured in our neural capture. If we have an improper mic, let's say, whatever that might be, you know, a mic that's not giving us what we want tone-wise, or we have it positioned incorrectly, or we have the amp set up properly, this is all going to affect our final outcome. That's beyond the scope of my video here or anybody's video. This is going to be a lot about personal preference and knowing what you're doing as far as miking an amp, setting an amp up properly, sending it through proper outboard gear, maybe a nice mic preamp and whatnot. So we really do have to have some knowledge in that department. Quad Cortex is only going to be able to spit out what we put into it. So it's sort of the old saying, garbage in, garbage out. If we're putting something in that's not good, it's going to faithfully recreate that sound that is not very good. So I do have my mic set up. I've already tested this out. I like the tones that I'm getting here. And so what I do is I've fed my microphone into an outboard mic preamp that I'm using, and I'm using that to feed back into input 2. Now it says from mic or amp. Now we could be doing a DI capture, and there's a warning down here. Very important. Connecting the speaker output from a tube amplifier to Quad Cortex could damage both units. Ensure you're using a DI out and your amplifier is still connected to a cabinet or reactive load box. So we always have to make sure of that. That's very, very important. to be able to not damage any of the equipment we're using. But I can also take that output from my Royer R10 microphone and plug it directly into here as a microphone input. But I've chosen to use the 1/4 inch input here and come out of my outboard mic preamplifier into the Quad Cortex. Either way is going to work fine. So I have that set up as well. We can hit next. Now it says once everything is connected properly, you can proceed with creating your neural capture. So that's just the setup process. Now, if we already knew all that, I could have just hit skip at the beginning. You see here, I can go previous back through all this. But if I'm in any of these and I just hit skip, it jumps me ahead to the final process where we're going to actually make this capture. So it says, please verify your Quad Cortex is properly connected to the target device. Reduce levels if any of the meters detect clipping. The in-to ground lift can mitigate noise caused by ground loops between Quad Cortex and the target device. So you'll notice there's another tab up here. We can engage or disengage ground lifts on the various ins and outs if need be. If we are doing a DI capture, we can also open up a cab sim so we can actually hear what this sounds like before doing the capture with the cab sims that they have here. So that's a nice little feature. But since I'm doing an amp and cab type capture, then I'm going to keep that turned off. Starting off over here though on the calibration tab, we have in one level, and it's an instrument level. That's where my guitar is plugged into. I don't touch this. I never touch it when I'm using my Quad Cortex. Normally, I just leave it as it is. It's set with enough headroom for the vast majority of guitars. I see no need to play around with this. I don't subscribe to the school of thought of always changing our input depending on the guitar we have. I've done videos about this in the past. So this, as far as I'm concerned, I leave it at 0, leave it alone. The input 1 type is an instrument, so I'm not going to switch this to microphone because I don't need to. It's going to be my instrument. That's my guitar. Now, this doesn't actually affect the capture in any way. This is just going to be for monitoring afterwards. So then we move on to the in2 level, and this is the level coming back to the Quad Cortex, in this case from either our microphone or from our mic preamp, which is what I'm doing in this case. So at this point, I can hit the auto button and play, and it'll set a level automatically, or I can decide to set that level manually. And I'm going to do that right now. I'll show you what's going to happen here when I get my guitar. So I'll grab a guitar and I'll be right back so that I can show you how I test this before actually committing to the capture. Okay, so here I am back with my Vigier GV Wood guitar. Beautiful guitar that I love playing, sounds great. So this is what this sounds like, and you'll see that when I play, that this meter is moving. Now I could hit auto, and have it set the level automatically. That says -2.5. I've actually found that in this case, I've already set what I have coming out of my mic pre to where I want it. And in this case, leaving this at 0 as I had it works, because if you look, and when I play normally here, I'm hovering at around -18, -20 on the dB meter here, maybe peaking up around -15, -16. It works fine. Everything is great there. It also has this cab sim. If we were doing a DI capture, that we could at least put some sort of simulated cab on here. We could mess around with different cabs and different mic positions and whatnot. But obviously, because I'm doing an amp cab sim, that I need that shut off. So I'm going to put some ear protection in. I am utilizing these incredible ear racers, not a company I have anything to do with, but I love their product. Really nice stuff, and I use this for live gigging and concerts and anything else where I need to protect my ears against a loud guitar amp that is behind me right now. So once we're all set, we got everything working here, I am going to hit start capturing. I'm going to let this run through so you can see what the actual process is actually like. you'll notice now that it's set to training. So the capturing process is done. I can take my ear protection out. We're not going to have any other loud sounds. I mean, if we're actually done at that point, you can go turn your amp off unless you want to use it for the audition process after. Now, at this point here, I can actually name this capture. So I'm going to name this JS capture test, we'll say. And at this point too, we can decide what instrument we want to say that this capture is designed for. We can go guitar, bass, synth, vocal, or other. I'm going to choose guitar. Now down here we have the type of capture it is. It has a default setting. This isn't going to do anything but just give us the icon that's going to show up. We have amp, we have combo. We have, so amp would be amp only, right? No speaker cab involved. That's like an amp DI capture, which we can do, but we have to have the proper setup to do that. Either a D out of your guitar or a special splitter box, but we have to make sure to still have a load on our amp. So it's a little more in depth. Combo, which would basically be an amp and a speaker in one box, basically. Amp and cab, which is the situation I have here. We have cab only, and we have pedal. We can just do a guitar pedal. So I am going to choose amp and cab. Now, if I look down on my screen on my Quad Cortex itself, it tells me we're at about 55% complete. So I think those training files that we listened to run for somewhere around 55 seconds to a minute, in and around there. I think I timed it at one point. I can't remember exactly what it came out to. And then another maybe like 3 to 3.5 minutes of training on the Quad Cortex. And the whole process is done in somewhere between 4 and 4.5 minutes. Really not too bad. So we'll let that finish. Then we'll take a look at what the next step is, and we'll take a listen to the results. All right, so here we are just a few short minutes later, and we see it says neural capture ready, and this is what happens. So I've already filled in my preferred instrument. I've named this. I've chosen my little icon down here. I can hit next. Now, it takes me to a place where I can decide to A/B these. Now, obviously, I'm in the same room here. A lot of times I'm not in the same room when I'm making these captures. Just for this video, I had to set it up like this. But I can switch back and forth between my reference amp and the Quad Cortex capture. And I can also have it set so that it alternates while I'm playing, so we can compare the difference in sound. 2 seconds, 4 seconds, 6 seconds, really nice. If we've done a direct capture, we can add a cab sim to it. I don't need to in this particular situation in case. But in this case here, I'm going to audition this after the fact. So let's just say we're happy with this. We've done this and everything's working. I say save neural capture, and it's saved. That's it. So we have the choice to either create another capture, go back through the entire process again, or we can just exit out of that. Now that we're back here to just a normal preset, what I've done is I just have a little preset set up here called capture test. I have a little tiny bit of room reverb just because, you know, digital tends to be bone dry. We're not capturing any of the ambience in the room. So I always like to throw a little room reverb in there. But here we go. I can add another block here. I'm going to go to my neural capture, and you'll notice here, capture test. I click that, and now we're playing this capture test of what we just captured of my Dr. Z Z-Rec Junior amp, and it sounds like this. How's it sound if I roll the volume back a bit? And there you have it. I think it's a really cool tone and very close to what this amp actually sounds like and how I had it set up. So now how would I maybe utilize captures on the Quad Cortex to take something like the amp I'm playing right now, which is my Dr. Z Z-Rec Junior single channel amp, but it is capable of everything from clean all the way up to quite overdriven. Well, I can do various captures of that and then incorporate those into a preset. And let me show you how I do that. So here is what I call my JS Rect Z Ultimate preset. And what this consists of is this preset with a full array of effects. And also it has numerous levels of overdrive and numerous captures of this amp, 5 to be exact. So what I've done here is, if we go down to gig view, is I've created a clean push 1, push 2, push 3 OD1 snapshot. On clean, you'll notice here that I actually have my Rect Z clean capture. On push 1, you'll notice that I have Rect Z push 1. On push 2, I have a totally different capture, Rect Z push 2. Moving on, Rect Z push 3, and then finally that amp wide open, Rect Z OD1. So if we go through these, we can hear what they sound like. move to push 1. Move to push 2. Move to push 3. And finally, that amp wide up with a little bit of delay. Now you might ask how I get it to switch between those. Well, what I've done here is utilizing scenes. I've basically come to each neural capture and I've assigned the power button or the bypass button on each of these to scenes in every single one of them. So that basically what I have here on scene A is the first clean neural capture. When I move to scene B, that disengages. All of the other ones are disengaged and it engages the second capture, and so on and so forth down the line. And I basically get to access this single channel amp as a full-blown, in this case, 5-channel amp, and I think it's a very cool way to work. And I hope some of you guys find that helpful. All right, so there you have it. What did you guys think? I hope that that was a clear, concise way of showing the whole process and the results that the Quad Cortex is capable of. I think it does a really great job, and I've created some really great sounding captures. All the links are below to my captures at my website if you're so inclined and want to check those out. But I'd like to let you hear now what this particular Dr. Z Z-Rec Junior amp sounds like with the multiple captures I did in the full Rec Z Ultimate Collection when utilized together in a mix. You guys enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed the tones, and I hope you agree that they actually sound quite nice in the mix. Those are available at the link below if you're so inclined. And I hope that this video was just helpful to show the actual process that we have to go through and that I use to get my neural captures sounding in the manner that I hope they will. So thanks again so much for sharing your time with me. I hope that was enjoyable. Please like the video, share it with anybody you think would get some use or enjoyment out of watching it, and also please subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell notification to get notified when I put new content out. I'll be back really soon with some more. Thanks again so much for tuning in. Ciao for now.